Yeah, so I was talking about the regional integration. It's important that we make sure that we do all it can take for us to increase in the regional integration network-wise. And I've come to agree that it's very beyond just engineers. It's beyond engineers. Engineers can do this, but there's so many things that needs to be aligned, and that's why the multi-stakeholder model is very important, so that all of us build, each one of us build your portion to make sure that we get to the design that allows the internet to grow. And then furthermore, we'll have the different regions that could collaborate and have traffic flowing between each region. And in my view, we can have a hope to say that our market is of a big size enough where we support this innovation, that, because I don't think that the engineers or the innovators in Africa are less inspired than innovators in different places. So it is just a matter for us to create the right environment, the right setup, and be able to see what we can provide as a contribution to this global village. I think I would stop it here. I wanted to have a discussion on this internet growth and seeing how each one of us can contribute. As we speak for now, we're talking about Ethiopia in this case, and Ethiopia is a huge, huge potential. In terms of numbers, it's very important. When I see numbers, it's the numbers to go on internet. It's very important that a country like this one has such a huge potential that we would like to see this materialize. And we've come here to say that we are with you. Anything that you believe we can do, AfriNIC is ready to provide this support. We had different discussions with some of the members here in terms of trainings, in terms of discussions and so on. We are more than happy to provide our contribution for the growth of the internet in this country, which I believe is going to have a boost effect for the entire region. Amasata Canelo.
Thank you, Eddy. By the way, AfriNIC is the organization that Africans has created on the internet, well, for the internet, some 15 years ago. So it is our organization, and unfortunately, Ethiopians have not been very present at AfriNIC, and I hope this will change. In fact, one of the purposes of this meeting is to create awareness about these kind of things, so that Ethiopia is present in this kind of important organizations. I don't think that there has been any board member or representative of from Ethiopia in AfriNIC for the last 15 years. So this is an important thing to change. Eddy is also, as I said, from Rwanda. Rwanda is in fact one of the countries that has made big changes in the ICT sector in general, but in the internet in particular. And Eddy was one of the people who really was behind that revolution, if I may say that. So since he's here for, I think today, I think it would be good to talk to him and learn from the Rwandan experience. We have talked a lot about Kenya, but we should have used more the Rwandan experience as well in this meeting. So thank you very much. I don't know if with how we here. So the next thing is I think the break. Am I right? The coffee break. I hope it is ready. We can have a few minutes for questions. Yeah. Questions. Mohammed, you have asked a lot of questions, so if I give the priority for someone else, if there are other questions. Okay, if not, Mohammed, please. send the mic.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I just want, first of all, thank you for the good presentations. I learned quite a lot. Now, my question is, there are two questions. One is about UNESCO. I'm surprised after all this that I didn't know some of the things you were telling. And I'm surprised that that information is not available to many people, hopefully maybe not only in Somalia, but also in the rest of the continent. So how can you make that information available to as many people as possible, especially people who are at the universities and the schools and so on? So it's not a criticism, it's just a matter of sharing the information. I travel a lot and I see UNESCO heritage here and there and what have you, but I also travel a lot in Africa. I see one or two, I don't actually see many, but there are a lot of places as I walk in Addis that deserve to be UNESCO heritage. So again, is there any way you can increase that and you can do something about this? My friend from AfriNIC, I salute you. For a change, we talked about something slightly bigger than IT and computing, and I want to mention this. As I travel, I'm doing 6 countries in these 2 weeks, and I'm not flying to Europe to get them. But I'm very old, and I remember a long time ago, for me to go from Addis to South Africa, I have to go to Europe and back again. So we're not there. So I'm flying Kenya Airways, Ethiopian Airways, Rwanda Airways to do 6 countries. So I'm very happy about this, but there's a lot more to do, heaps more to do, especially with the universities and telecommunications sector where we can connect. Lastly, I just want to mention, I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of more time, about the East African community. This morning, actually, I was working on a piece on this. There are 14, 16 bills they have to enact. Now, among friends, we can joke here. Imagine East African community. What does East mean? What can be more Eastern than Somalia and Ethiopia? And they're not even a member. So when I joke with my Australian friend, he says it's like having what we call the VFL. This is a tournament in Australia, and having some of the teams missing. So again, it's something perhaps it's beyond this meeting, but we can let our politicians know to speed up this integration about the East African community. I'll stop here. I've got more, but maybe in the coffee break. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. I think you might be happy to hear that regional integration, East African regional integration is dear to our Prime Minister. So maybe something will be moving in that direction, especially if he stays in power for the next 5 years. Has questions, comments? Okay, Lishan.
Congratulate UNESCO for those universality indicators. One of the challenges that we have seen over the last couple of years is that it's good to have the indicators, but I think it's very difficult to sustain the collection of data and continuously do the research. I'm just wondering whether UNESCO is having some kind of interface with the universities and research institutions in the countries so that this is going to be sustainable. For instance, the right ones will go to law schools, and the, for instance, the accessibility ones could go to, for instance, I don't know, informatics schools or business schools, so that this data is consistently generated, and then countries also collaborate. Government institutions also collaborate with the university so that this is kind of done on sustainable basis. Thank you.
Andriette had comments as well.
Thank you. Henriette Esterhuizen, Association for Progressive Communications and the Global Internet Governance Forum. I want to thank both speakers for their inputs. And just to build on what Lishan was just saying, I coordinated the project of developing the indicators, and it had a very strong African input. We tested it in Nigeria and in Senegal. And I think Lishan, Research ICT Africa, was one of the developers of that. And there's a link with AfriNIC as well. I think the presenter talked about Brazil, and Brazil is one of the countries where the indicators have been used. And they work very closely with the technical community. In fact, the Brazilian Network Information Center is coordinated the whole study. And I think, Eddy, for you, I think there's so much value in those of us that are looking at the social impacts of the internet, such as what the indicators are trying to do, to collaborate more closely with those that have the technical data, that are growing the network and the infrastructure itself, because that data is also important. That evidence is also important. And I think the value of the, in my experience, and I wanted to ask you about the Kenyan process, how that's going, because I've been looking at the Tunisian process quite closely. The value often is in getting, not just in the data, Lishan, it's in getting the people together to sit around the table, people who come with different priorities and interests, to talk about what matters to them, and then use the indicators. And I think one of the indicators, aspects of the indicators that's important is you don't have to measure everything at the same time. You can focus on your policy, you can follow on affordable access, focus on affordable access or on gender. You don't have to feel intimidated by all of those areas at the same time.
Thank you, Henriette. Maybe Lydia, you'll start, and then Eddy, if you have some more comments.
I want to thank each one of you that has raised some comments and, of course, contribution. I must take it that we are in this together, so we are not the monopoly of answers to the questions. We'll, as my brother say from Rwanda, we are here to brainstorm and to look for common grounds where we can find solutions to our challenges. From the question that came from our brother Mohammed, yes, it's a challenge to us too, and I think it links to the same that my brother here has said, how much of these universality indicators is known out there, particularly with academia, and we take it as a challenge. These are indicators that were approved, I must say, like 2 years ago, because that's 2018 November, and we've moved very fast. I think we are not doing very well when it comes to raising the visibility in terms of reaching out to some of the stakeholders. Alice Zamonyo is here and will agree with me that the people that are on the forefront is the civil society. But in a lot of these discussions and platforms where we raise awareness, we advocate for these indicators and many others, the academia sort of like takes a back seat. And I think you've thrown a challenge to us to reach out to them and bring them on board in big numbers. Therefore, ISOC and every other stakeholder here, let's make sure that in our national, regional, and international meetings, whether it's IGF or any other platform, and I can see also AU is here, we need to have more of the academia. And he also talked about how can we make this information available and accessible? I think we need to utilize the platforms that we have, whether they are libraries or whatever other platform. And this is a challenge I'll throw back to the thinkers of the whole idea of internet universalities, to make sure they're accessible. I thank you for congratulating UNESCO. And MS is not about UNESCO. As we said, it's a very intensive, inclusive, multi-stakeholder approach. And as much as we've taken lead to coordinate and to convene all of you, many of you stakeholders have been part of this process. And APC and through all the YCs and through all the IGF platforms, you've been part of this process. And again, as much as Africans have been on the forefront when it comes to application, possibly some of the challenges we have and even the buy-in, and maybe this is where we need to put more effort, is to support and to look into why isn't there uptake, a big uptake from the African stakeholders that really know the value of applying these universal indicators. I think we need to put more effort in that, and this is something that I'll put back to our organization that is convening everyone. In terms of sustainability, as you say, I agree with you fully. If it is embedded on our research programs at different levels, the university or any other level where research is being conducted and the data updated on a continuous basis, then it's going to be sustainable because the internet ecosystem is evolving every day. So the data that was collected yesterday by Kenya may not be so relevant in 5 years' time. So sustaining this momentum and sustaining updated data is a challenge to all of us. And this is why the multi-stakeholder approach and the buy-in of every partner is very important. And we will make sure that we do that interface with the universities. The last question from my sister here, I think I've answered it in some way. I don't have the full answers, but I agree with you. The value of engaging stakeholders like Kenya has done is important. And my brother here, the way it threw back the, is it, or somebody to AfriNIC. In Kenya, one of the advantages we have, of course, we have one of the strongest, I work here, but I'm from Kenya, but we have one of the strongest ICT network, Kiktanet, that is able to bring together different stakeholders. And they've been in this, Alice was a leader there, and they've been in this for a very long time, and they have very good practices. They have good practices at the national level, regional, and played a key role at the global level. So they bring all this back to the country. But if you read the draft report of Kenya, one of the challenges they have raised, as much as we ought to use a multi-stakeholder, is getting the government engaged. So there are always people who are supposed to be sitting at the table and being part of this discussion, but it becomes sometimes slightly difficult to get them fully on board. Therefore, this value of engaging people and to develop and bring partners together still continues to be a challenge, but it's something that we have to put more effort in as we promote the multi-stakeholder approach. If I've not answered your question, please let's discuss this further. Give us your suggestions, send us your proposals from the email that we sent, and we are committed to working with you and accompanying you to make sure that we have the net ecosystem that we want in our different countries.
Thank you again, and thank you for the different comments that we received from the different people who raised comments. I'd like to say one thing. When we say AfriNIC, NIC is Network Information Center. And yes, we are also doing a lot around the data. And I think Brice mentioned that yesterday. And Brazil is a very interesting case. I've been wanting to understand what they did, because in a way, when you look at Brazil in the framework of the entire Latin America, they're a bit, it's a different, it has a different shape, and you always have this type of economies in every places. And what I just want to say is that AfriNIC is really committed to play its role. So we are very committed to play our role in this multi-stakeholder ecosystem. And we will make sure that we foster any engagement or any collaboration with the different partners that are there. We are very aware that we can't do everything by ourselves. And a call for each one here, because I see a lot of young persons here. Yes, we have members in AfriNIC, and most of the members are those holding resources. For the time being in Ethiopia, we have one member, but we're looking forward to see this changing, because members can be coming from different places, even if there's no ISPs, but there is education, the universities, all of them, they have different networks that they can benefit. And as a bank, I work in the bank, as David said, it's very important when you can play your role with multiple providers, not just being locked with a single provider. And it's very important to have your own resources so that you can be independent, because as you know, in a different type of market. You can get service from one provider today, another provider tomorrow. So these are things that are very important for us to see, and I hope it's going to come in the country too. Even if we have the members, we also have the community, and Dawit mentioned that. So we really appeal to each one of you to subscribe to the mailing list. That's where we start generally. Get to know, get to learn, get to see what you can do, because it's not something that there is a place for you to, regardless of what you do in your life. Even if you're a student, you can still learn and make sure that you are part of the big movement. Start small and keep building one brick at a time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eddy. I think these were very wise words to finish the session with. Thank you very much, Lydia and Eddy. I think it was very interesting to hear your perspectives. These are very important organizations. I have been working with both of them. UNESCO, I've been working at least for the last 20 years, and AfriNIC, at least from almost the very beginning. And I hope that Ethiopians will work more with the organizations. We have many things to learn from, the wealth of experience that they have from around the world. And I think they also need our presence. So I'm happy that you're here to talk about what you have been doing. I would like to recognize the arrival of His Excellency Dr. Ahmadine, who is the State Minister of Innovation and Technology in charge of ICT. Dr. Ahmadine has been really the most important person for the success of this meeting. I was concerned that I wouldn't get the support for this meeting because Internet Society is not very well known in Ethiopia. And when I was asking, they were telling me, don't worry, Dr. Ahmadine will make it happen. And when I went to his office, I was a bit concerned. I had a list of questions. And when I went out, I was very happy because he accepted everything. And since then, he has been communicating by text, by email. I could tell him about all my worries, and he was always there to answer to my concerns. So I would like to say a big thank you because it's a pity that he wasn't here with us in the last 2 days, but it was not because he didn't want it. It was because he was in important meetings that he couldn't avoid, but he made sure that he's at least here today. So just after the break, we are going to have his keynote speech. And after that, we'll go directly to the closing session. And that will be the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.